What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to COASTER-net Update. We've got some breaking news out of Orlando, Florida, where Seaworld Orlando's posted an interesting video all of a sudden of a stand-up roller coaster. But hold on. I think I know you, right? You work for COASTER-net, right?
I think so.
Well, I just say that because I'm wearing my Halloween t-shirt here because the last time we did an update was in November, I think the middle of November. So I'm kind of like still in the Halloween season, I guess.
It's funny, I'm wearing my New Year's Eve t-shirt.
Well, there you go. You're a little bit more updated than I am. But yeah, so we are back here with COASTER-net Update. There really hasn't been a whole lot to talk about, I guess, right?
Yeah, we might have missed a couple things.
Just a few things, but most of the things turned out to be false anyway. Like SeaWorld buying Cedar Fair, that never happened, or a Knott's Berry 300-foot roller coaster, doesn't look like that's happening either. So we missed out on a lot of fake news, as they say.
Maybe SeaWorld's going bankrupt.
Who knows? At this point, who knows? But we do know that SeaWorld looks like they are putting in a new roller coaster for next year, just dumping massive amounts of money into these parks, especially when it comes to rides. And the oft rumored, the legendary, maybe even this thing we've heard about for a number of years, this mysterious B&M surf coaster, looks like it finally is going to come to fruition, finally going to be put up here. Jeff, you saw the video. You've also looked at some patents. Can you maybe try to talk to us a little bit about why this coaster is different than the much maligned stand-up coasters of the past?
Yeah, well, I don't think we could call it a stand-up coaster because everybody knows that stand-up coasters are awful and unmarketable. So from now on, we'll call it a surf coaster because that's what they're calling it.
Sure, we can do that.
Yeah, it does look like an improvement. It looks like they've handled some of my biggest complaints. I'm not a big fan of the stand-up coasters myself. I know I'm a bad enthusiast because I skip them when I go to certain parks.
Oh my goodness. Even the credits.
Even if I don't have that credit, I have been known to skip them. I know. Sorry, I'm bad.
Danny Miller has never seen a coaster.
That's probably why I'm not at Hollywood Nights. They kept that ticket from me because I skipped stand-up roller coasters.
But you didn't. Your essay wasn't good enough, as they say.
No. So, one of my biggest complaints about the stand-up roller coasters is that the OTSRs are very flat, and I get a lot of head boxing on them. Yeah. It seems that they've replaced that style with the vest style restraint that we see on Banshee and like the newer dive coasters and our wing coasters. So everybody does seem to like those restraints for the most part.
Except Danny Miller. He's and I was just having this argument with him not more than 48 hours ago. It's just, I've always hated the hard restraints on everything. And yeah, I think in some cases you do get a little bit more air here and there. But if you are of certain dimensions and that restraint's on you, you're not getting a whole lot of play. If you're a small kid, a small child, you can definitely get a whole lot more air than say I or you could. But the trade-off has always been the headbanging on things that have inversions. And I think of rides like the Hulk and Mantis back in the day, which is now Rougarou. I was shocked when Cedar Point did not jump to the vest restraints on Rougarou, because one, you can usually cut a few inches off the height requirement, and two, it usually provides a much smoother experience, at least for my ears. Both Mantis and Rougarou absolutely killed my head, especially coming off that brake run into the corkscrews. Some rides are a little bit better than others, but once again, Hulk was another one. When they completely rebuilt the ride, when they cloned it into its own spot to make it a new credit, and I will die on that hill if you question me on it. I will absolutely die on that hill. I was also shocked they did not change it to a vest restraint. That I just find the vest restraints to be so much smoother, so much easier of a ride, that yes, it locks you down in the waist and you might not get as much pop in certain spaces, but I will gladly trade that for not having my ears hurt for the next 15 to 20 minutes every time I walk off a ride.
Yeah, Green Lantern, same spot too, right off the brake run into the corkscrews really killed me. I did it.
Yeah.
Never do it again. A lot of people think that that's one of the better stand-ups. The other one that I feel like people jump to is Riddler's Revenge and Magic Mountain. Hated that one too, but for the opposite reason. The legs, right? That's the other thing that people complain about.
Well, that's the other thing is I was talking to you before the show, and it just the amount of pressure sometimes it puts on your calves and your thighs, almost like they're burning. Especially I felt that if you were actually following instructions and stood up as much as you could, like if you sat on the seat, the bicycle seat during the ride, you would relieve some of that G-force on your legs. But that was the only way to do it. That Riddler, I think, was a good ride. I've ridden it a number of times. It's just it's kind of one of those things where I was never a stand-up guy. And plus I always felt that the restraints on the stand-ups were a lot more restrictive than other B&Ms, where you would have to be a lot thinner up on your shoulders, and just the process of getting in and out of them was difficult. Mind you, though, the stand-ups at the King's Parks of what was Shockwave at King's Dominion was still in my top 5 worst roller coasters I've ever been on. Just a completely uncomfortable ride. That it's not just B&M. No one in my mind has ever made a stand-up.
No, I used to have a Shockwave too, and I think it might have been the same Shockwave that they sent to you when they were doing those ride rotations, right? The Intamin Shockwave, or didn't that go to Great America as well? Or am I not
Intamin Shockwave?
Didn't you guys have a stand-up too? Or no, I'm sorry.
We had Iron Wolf. So
I'm thinking of Magic Mountain again. I think
we had Iron Wolf. Iron Wolf was our stand-up that went to Six Flags America. That was eventually turned into the sit-down floorless coaster, Firebird, actually. But yeah, I just haven't met a stand-up that was like, oh my God, this is an amazing ride. And it's a shame because sometimes like the layouts, like on Rougarou, I feel like Mantis to Rougarou was a marked improvement. Some people argue, nutsos, as I say, would argue that point. But I think that was a marked improvement. On other rides, like I did Patriot out at Six Flags or California's Great America. And it was just like, okay, I didn't do the stand-up before, but I've been on the vortexes at other places, and they're slightly, similar or different in whatever ways. But turning that into a floorless was just like a meh ride at best. So sometimes it's the layout, sometimes it's the actual design that makes it even worse. But here, this design, so we fixed the hard restraint problem. That's number one.
So they fixed something at the bottom as well. So the old school stand-ups kind of had like a sliding connection in between the shoulder part and the seat, saddle, whatever you want to call it, to adjust the height. And they were just kind of like on bearings, and they would lock in place. So this kind of has the same idea to get the, your torso lined up. But then once you're on it, I don't know how to describe there's kind of like 2 hinges, like a lever. They're kind of in the shape of a parallelogram. I was saying to you before the show, it kind of looks like the same kind of hinge that's on the staircase that leads to my attic, but it's also got a gas and oil-filled shock with an accumulator. So an accumulator just kind of like takes pressure and it's able to dampen it. So I'm thinking that this might have a little bit of give while you're riding it, that maybe we'll get like a little bit of that surfing motion, and maybe that's why they landed on that name.
Well, and that's interesting because and you got all this not from obviously the short little video that Seaworld posted, but Seaworld filed patents, or someone filed patents. Was it Seaworld that did it or B&M?
No, B&M did for because they're a foreign manufacturer and they have to file with the U.S. Patent Office to be able to sell here.
Okay, so So they filed all these patents, and you saw, and you can see, and we posted some of the pictures here. You can see some of the different views that they give you, and you can kind of, and that's an interesting idea, because one of the problems with the stand-up design before was its rigidness, that you were kind of locked in there. It was uncomfortable the minute you got locked in, all the way up the lift hill, all the way through some of the elements. You're still locked into the same position. And if they didn't lock you in perfectly well, then you're stuck there for the 2.5 minute ride for it to go to completion. But now, maybe surf coaster might be the word they're using, but maybe it's going to be more of a bounce coaster, where you're going to get a little bouncing action as you go through different elements.
Well, with the exception of the hypercoaster and the giga coasters, you really don't see airtime hills on many of their rides. But in the rendering, they did show a lot of big bank turns, an S turn, and an airtime hill. But it also looked like there was maybe a dive loop or an Immelman, some sort of inversion. They showed the track, but they didn't show the train going through it.
Yeah, I think depending on how you lay this out, and it looks like it also has a launch on it. So you're going to skip that whole, we need to go up a lift hill nonsense, in a position. But if you start getting a little bit of bounce at different points, it's going to add in a whole nother level of, oh, this could be a really unique experience. I don't know if I'm sold on the entire idea just as of yet. I'm still very leery. And that is from having ridden Mantis so many times in my life. It's hard to get that taste out of your mouth, or out of your nether regions, and and you kind of, I still see the bicycle seat there.
Yeah.
The vests are much heavier, so I don't know. Hopefully, I think you said that maybe the natural position is to be all the way up.
Yeah, it seemed like when you read through their descriptions of how it works, the default position is for that seat to be all the way up. So before you sit on it, it will be at its highest point. So maybe,
which is kind of how the old, because I remember jumping onto Mantis and having to go down on it. So Mantis was kind of the same way. I think the old stand-ups are kind of the same way, because I had to jump onto the seat and then you'd go down and push it down. It wasn't like it was already down and then you pulled it up.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't been on one in so long that I can't really remember, just in the station, how it was. I just remember it moving around really easy.
I remember that, because when it would roll into the station, everyone would get off, they would all pop up, and then you'd have to go in and jump it and push it down and get onto the seat that way. So maybe it makes sense for it to do that, because you want it to be in a certain, but then if it gives you that bounce, that might actually fix some of the issues I had with it. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. The patent did talk about improving comfort and acknowledge the old design, saying that it's improved comfort over the old design. And that was
and honestly, just taking away the hard restraints and putting the vests on is gonna get rid of one of my biggest issues with it, was just the head banging that was always present on stand-ups, no matter what stand-up you went on. And people would talk about being from Chicago, Iron Wolf being one of the first stand-ups. Anytime you talked about Iron Wolf, that's the one thing people would always talk about, is the head banging. Oh, my head hurts. And then they go to the gentleman would complain about different issues as well, but it was always everyone complained about the head banging. So getting rid of that issue, I think, is going to be huge. And it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of corkscrewing going on this ride design. So that should also alleviate, just in proper ride design, alleviate some of the head banging too, hopefully. But yeah.
Yeah, we don't know what animal it'll be themed to, but they do seem to have a layout.
Well, they seem to be very far along, and obviously they're going to start building this fairly soon, because they're going to be opening it up next year. So they are going along with this whole surf this, surf that. I don't think it's going to be called the Surf Coaster. I would assume it's going to be named after an animal, right? That's what
they were calling it Project Penguin originally. We actually have done 2 stories on this already previous today. This has been in the pipes for years now. Yeah.
I feel like we've like this is that one like it's like that one thing. Oh yeah, it's the surf coaster. It's the surf coaster. The other interesting thing though,
The
and we'll
what?
see if this pans out, is it was a two across seating in all the video
Oh yeah,
renderings,
yeah.
which would be not completely new for B&M. B&M has been doing two across for different inverts for family inverts lately. So doing a two across here.
Yeah.
Maybe has to do with that launch because Thunderbird has that really, really great launch. Like Thunderbird's, I still say Thunderbird's launch is the best launch in roller coasters because it picks up speed as it goes. So hopefully this surf coaster has that same sort of launch on it because that could really be the highlight of this ride. I don't know if I'd want to be standing during that, but
You got no choice.
I got no choice. Got no choice.
Yeah.
But
I don't think that the launch has to do anything with the type now. I mean, now that we know a little bit more information, I think that the surf designation is just all about rebranding the stand-up, which could mean interesting things in general. It could mean that the launch system could be something that we'll see sold on other models in the future, or at least I hope so. If it's
well, and it always surprised me that we haven't seen the launch that they did so well on Thunderbird make it to other places, but we haven't seen a whole lot of B&Ms outside of dive coasters being built in America as of late either. So it's kind of like you're not going to put a launch on a dive coaster, obviously. So there's not a whole lot of other B&Ms being put up, and maybe overseas they're just not looking for that type of thing. With all the other companies that can do launches, Mac and Intamin, and you know, so I find it very interesting that now we see not only this resurgence of B&M, because B&M has come back, I think, real strong here with the dive coasters, and now with this new model. If this surf coaster model actually is successful and people are like, oh wow, this is really cool, maybe we're going to start seeing this in other places too. Maybe this is the resurgence of the stand-up, which I thought I would never say ever in my life that people would be standing on roller coasters again. I thought we were past this point, but here we are.
we're back to the beginning.
But back, and honestly, this is B&M's beginning, right? Because B&M really innovated the stand-up even before the invert, correct?
Yeah. The Walter Bollinger and Mabiard were at Indamin at the time, designing the stand-up coaster and the box spine for the track, and then they took it with them.
That first coaster that they designed ended up at Darien Lake and was scrapped. It was sitting in a field.
It was reassembled. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was sitting in a field at Darien Lake for a number of years. I don't know if it's still there or not. I think they said it's been scrapped, but yeah, and then you got the first official one with Iron Wolf. So really, maybe this is more of a story of B&M trying to gain some sort of reclamation of idea that they're like, hey, this was our idea to start with. It was well, maybe it wasn't, because there were other stand-ups. They put the Six Flags St. Louis on their mine train. Railblazer, the first Railblazer was a stand-up. I don't know the year off the top of my head. And then you obviously had the the Shockwave and those. Who made those? I forgot already. Togo made those awful contraptions. King Cobra at Kings Island, correct?
And they had the Skyrider at Canada's Wonderland too.
True. Yes. So like this was just one of those concepts that everyone's been like, hey, this is something people want to do. I don't know who they're talking to. But apparently they're trying to make this come back in a big way, and we'll see if it works. I don't know. Time will tell, right? So
I'd rather be excited about the launch.
I think I am excited about the launch, and that dawned on me as we were talking about how great Thunderbird's launch is. And if this launch can be just as great as that, if not better, then maybe it's worth standing up for. That I'll stand with SeaWorld on that. So any final thoughts here tonight?
No, I can't top that.
Yeah, I can't top that, right? So as always, I am Andrew Barchek from Chicago, Illinois.
I'm Jeff Goodman from Long Island, New York.
Right on, Ride Warriors.